The Intermediate Lifecycle Courses. Service Strategy. Lesson 17. Governance. Welcome to Lesson 17, Governance. In this lesson, we're going to look at how governance is put in place, the governance framework, IT and corporate governance, and service strategy and governance. The material in this lesson relates to syllabus section SS04. Remember, it's strongly recommended that you carry out further reading in the Service Strategy Core volume as part of your exam preparation. This lesson focuses on governance. This is a much used but often misunderstood word. Let's start with the definition. Governance is defined as ensuring that policies and strategy are actually implemented, and that required processes are correctly followed. Governance includes defining roles and responsibilities, measuring and reporting, and taking actions to resolve any issues identified. Governance has to overarch IT and the business to be successful. The services within an organization often support many business processes and can be used to execute governance. Governance should set common direction, rules, and policies for IT and the business. Any IT service management strategy put in place needs to work within the existing governance structure. Organizations are constantly evolving, so governance needs to adapt to meet changing business requirements. If governance doesn't evolve, the organization will start to work around the rules and policies, which will eventually fail. Many organizations implement the policies they think they should have, but if they are not adopted, then they do not serve any purpose. Corporate governance defines the rules, policies, and processes that operate, regulate, and control businesses. These will be shaped by the environment the organization works in, including any relevant legislation and regulations. Standards bodies, consumer groups, shareholders, directors, and the organization's constitution will also influence the governance in place. Governance will influence service strategy. The diagram you can see here shows how it is expressed in strategies, policies, and plans. There is an international standard for the corporate governance of IT, ISO 38500. It's not a syllabus requirement, but you can research the standard if this area is relevant to your role. This diagram reinforces the concept of governance being applied consistently at all levels, filtering down through the organization. Policies also need to define authority structures, showing where decisions are made and the limits of authority. To implement governance effectively, plans need to be put in place. These will not be defined by the high-level governors, but by managers within the organization. Managers will use governance to help them produce the right plans, consistent with the overall organizational direction. These need to be reviewed and approved by the governors. Defining strategy, policies, and plans is a process containing the steps you can see here. It's very important for an organization to link its service strategy to the overall governance policies in place. We're going to take a look at these activities in a little more detail now. The first activity is to evaluate. Any organization needs to be evaluated constantly to look at its performance and its position within its environment. Evaluation will consider the organization within the context of its industry, trends, regulatory environment, and markets. Inputs to evaluation will include the areas you can see here: strategic assessment, financial performance, service and project portfolios, ongoing operations, escalations, opportunities and threats, shareholder, manager, and customer proposals, contracts, and user, customer, and partner feedback. The next step in the process is direction. This step is where the strategies, plans, and policies are communicated to management. Management will then communicate them down through the business. Management need guidelines to help them to implement and comply with the organizational governance requirements. The direct activity includes delegation of authority and responsibility, establishment of steering committees to communicate with management and collect feedback, passing vision, strategy, and policies to managers to feed down through the business, and managing any decisions escalated to management. Once the organizational direction has been set, monitoring needs to take place. The governors need to make sure that policies are complied with and any exceptions are tracked and managed. Feedback and monitoring output will then provide inputs to evaluation and influence future direction. For monitoring to be successful, a number of areas need to be in place. A measurement system, for example, a balanced scorecard, key performance indicators, risk assessment, compliance audit, capability analysis, to make sure management have the skills and resources to comply with governance. It's important to understand that there is a difference between governance and management. Governance is performed by governors who want to make sure that rules and policies are adhered to. Management is performed by executives and their direct reports, who execute rules, processes, and operations according to the overall governance policies. Governance and management need to be aligned, but they are often carried out by different people. Management is the execution of rules and authority granted by governance. The next area we're going to consider is the governance framework. This is a categorized and structured set of documents that clearly articulate the strategy, policies, and plans of the organization. ISO 38500 defines 6 areas that need to be governed, the domains of governance. You can see them here. Establish responsibilities. Strategy to set and meet the organization's objectives. Acquire for valid reasons. Ensure performance when required. Ensure conformance with rules. Ensure respect for human factors. Each domain contains high-level policies as part of the overall framework, which managers then use to create procedures, services, and operations. IT governance is not completely separate to corporate governance. An organization needs to establish corporate governance of IT to make sure IT is not creating rules that are at odds with overall organizational policies. IT governance usually refers to senior IT management enforcing corporate governance within IT. The CIO is often involved in the creation of corporate governance as part of the executive group. This diagram shows the hierarchy of governance bodies within an organization. You can see how corporate governance is driven down into IT. The IT Steering Committee or IT Steering Group will make sure IT complies with corporate governance. IT can also help business units to comply with governance through the services it provides. For example, a financial service might include role-based access and audit trails. The IT Steering Group will influence IT strategy and help to prioritize IT projects and allocate funding. We'll add a full list of their responsibilities to the study guide for this lesson. So, how does service strategy relate to governance? Every part of an organization, including IT, needs to create its own strategy that links into the overall corporate governance strategy. Strategy management for IT should be overseen by the CIO and the IT Steering Committee. The larger the organization, the more complex the strategy and the more roles involved with its creation. The services in the service portfolio are the result of strategy. Current and planned services are all part of strategy execution. For example, if an organization has policies related to transparency and accountability for decision-making, IT services can help to enable this. Financial management is also relevant as it makes sure that policies are financially achievable and funding is allocated to the appropriate services. The other service strategy processes are also involved with governance. Demand management helps to define boundaries for services, establishing the patterns of activity which may mean strategies become less effective. Business relationship management defines service requirements and performance levels so that customers are able to use services to comply with corporate governance requirements. We're going to finish this lesson with an exercise. Plan to spend 20 minutes on this exercise, and don't forget to check your study guide for a suggested solution. You are the CIO for an organization that has no clear corporate governance. The Executive Board wishes to address this and has asked you to explain how IT and service strategy can support them. Prepare a presentation for the board showing how IT services can support corporate governance and how the service strategy processes will support its implementation.